You think you can lie to me by saying something like that? You broke my mom's leg. I've already prepared to file a police report. When I came back from shopping, my husband, with a face like a demon, told me that my mill had broken her leg and would be in the hospital for an extended period. He even went as far as to say that I was the cause of her broken leg, even though I'd been with our son the entire time. He said he couldn't trust the words of our elementary school-aged son and refused to believe it. When I denied being responsible for my mill's broken leg, my husband became physically abusive. Just then, a visitor appeared. It was the police, and the one who got arrested by the police was not me, but my husband. My name is Michelle, 33 years old. I live with my husband, Jack, who's 4 years older than me, and our third-grade son, Tim. I work as a caregiver, and my husband is a white-collar worker. We met each other through mutual friends. Those friends, concerned about my workaholic lifestyle, thought it'd be good for me and introduced me to my husband. Jack is kind and understanding, but sometimes shows his strong-willed side, which made me trust the introduction from my friends. We got married a year after we met. Soon after, I got pregnant with Tim, and he's already in the 3rd grade. During that time, I had no reason to dislike my husband until a specific incident changed my feelings toward him. That incident was the sudden death of my father-in-law. My in-laws lived nearby, and we maintained a comfortable and good family relationship with them. However, everything changed after my FIL's sudden death. My mill started to act like a stalker towards my husband and son, sticking to them like glue. My mill seemed like she was letting all her pent-up emotions explode, now that they were no longer being restrained by my Phil. Jack was an only child, and it appeared he had been spoiled by his mom since he was young. However, once we got married, Jack decided to prioritize our own family and distance himself from his mother. After discussing it with his father, who promised to act as a buffer with his mother, things were going smoothly. Thanks to my Phil, we were living a life with minimal interference from my mill. However, now that he was gone, there was no one to stop her. For starters, she moved into our single-family home. I'm getting old, and your father is gone, Jack. You wouldn't want me to be lonely, would you? So I've decided to move in. She moved in without asking, so we had no choice but to accept this new living arrangement, especially since her tone was quite assertive. Being a caregiver, my primary shifts are during the day, but I have a few night shifts per month. When I work night shifts, I prepared make-ahead dinners and lunches for Jack and Tim. However, as soon as my mill moved in, she declared she would do the cooking. Why should Jack and Tim have to eat cold meals? I had no retort to that. I work night shifts about 4 or 5 times a month, and it seemed like my mill was eagerly awaiting those days. I'm not sure if she sees it as the perfect chance to have my husband and Tim all to herself, but she goes overboard, cooking way more food than they could possibly eat. It's almost like she's taunting me, stuffing the fridge full with the leftovers, and she'd prepare sugary desserts after dinner, even though Tim dislikes sweets. However, Tim had a hard time with sweet treats. On the flip side, he loved salty snacks like crackers and bar munchies. Tim fully understood that my mill was trying to cozy up to him when I wasn't around. He never played nice with her and mostly gave her the cold shoulder. My husband realized that she was going overboard, but given that it's his mom, he wasn't able to strongly confront her and kept his responses moderate. My mill still seemed clueless about the fact that she couldn't manipulate my husband and Tim just the way she wanted. It was clear that Mill loved my husband and Tim, which conversely meant she couldn't stand me. She would go to great lengths to passive-aggressively mistreat me. For instance, soon after I'd finished vacuuming, I'd hear a thud from the storage space under the stairs. When I'd go to investigate, my mill had emptied the vacuum cleaner and scattered its contents across the hallway. This was my mill's redo signal. If there was even a speck of dust left in a corner, she'd dump out the vacuum cleaner, making it nearly impossible for me to get any other chores done. Even when it came to laundry, I never mixed my clothes with my mill's. If she was so particular about it, she could wash her own stuff. But instead, she seemed happy to waste time by insisting we wash our things separately. Cleaning and laundry were already a hassle, but her complaints about meals were even worse. What's up with this salty soup? It's undrinkable. This rice is so hard, I could break a tooth. Scrambled eggs are supposed to be sweet. You know, a breakfast without grilled fish and seaweed. That's ridiculous. She was constantly complaining like this every morning at breakfast. Mom, Michelle is busy and she's making us breakfast. If you don't like it, you can cook or just don't eat it. Jack would chime in to help, but my mill would coolly reply, I'm saying all this for your sake and Tim's. How are you guys supposed to go about your day after eating such a terrible breakfast? It really irked me that she had no intention of cooking herself, but still acted like she knew better. She ruined the atmosphere at every meal with her constant complaints. Not that my mill intended to be this way. After complaining, she'd chat about what happened during the day, or asked him about school. Jack and Tim both ignored her, but she didn't seem to notice and kept on talking. Then, a crucial event happened that made Jack side with his mom. It was on a certain day off. I had planned to go shopping with Tim that day. Jack had already gone out with friends and wasn't at home. As we were about to leave, my mill said, "Where do you think you're going without me? What a terrible daughter-in-law you are. Tim, wouldn't you rather go out with Grandma?" Tim firmly replied, I had planned to go out with Mom today, so I can't. Grandma, you stay home. Unhappy with this, my mill grumbled. Why are you going out with Michelle? Is it because of money? You never give me any allowance, yet you spend all this money on yourselves. Where's the respect for Jack's mother? Then she started walking towards my purse. Basically, she was hinting that she wanted money. Sensing trouble, I rushed over to my purse, only to find that my mill was about to steal it. My mill should be getting an allowance from Jack. I don't think there's a need to give her any more money. At that point, my mill forcefully started pulling my purse. She promptly picked up my wallet that had flown out due to yanking. She opened the wallet and took out a $100 bill. I thought, isn't this theft? But apparently, theft within a household doesn't hold up legally. My mill said, you should have just handed it over quietly in the first place, and stormed out of the house clutching the $100 bill. Well, I could see she's probably going to blow it quickly, so I let it go. I tried to be as cheerful as possible with Tim. Sorry, Tim. Let's shake it off and head out, shall we? Tim and I had a good time at a shopping mall not far from here. I bought Tim some new shoes and clothes, since he's been growing lately. When I obliged Tim's request to wear his new shoes immediately, he was so pleased that he started skipping. After that, he kindly tagged along for a bit of my shopping, and we had lunch at a ramen place per Tim's choice. Aren't you going for the kids' meal? I'm a grown-up now. I want something rich and heavy. I did feel a twinge of sadness realizing that his taste is maturing, whether he's just growing up or has the palate of an old man. I was actually hoping to eat something fancy like an omelet or a burger, so I was a bit disappointed. While I was pondering this, my phone rang. It was a call from my husband, which made me think it was urgent. Michelle, where are you with Tim? Come home now. I was taken aback by his uncharacteristically angry voice. What's gotten into you? I asked, which seemed to infuriate him even more. Do you even realize what you've done? Thinking it would be best to go home quickly, I told Tim, let's head back a little early. And we made our way home. When we got home, my husband stood there looking serious, as if something major had happened. I told Tim to go to his room, and after confirming he'd gone, my husband immediately said, "Where have you been? How could you go out with Tim after breaking my mom's leg?" What? I couldn't believe my ears. Did I break my Mill's leg? What's that about? I work in a profession where I'm responsible for people's lives. I would never harm someone. What are you talking about? I have no idea what you mean. You think you can fool me by playing dumb? My mom is in the hospital, screaming that you broke her leg and filing a complaint against you. Is my husband really believing that I did this? My words fell on deaf ears, and I felt saddened. I was shopping with Tim all day. Yes, I had a little argument with my Mill in the morning, but we haven't crossed paths since then. Just asked him. Frustrated, I raised my voice as I felt unfairly accused. You can't trust what Tim says. He's just in 3rd grade. How would he know what's going on? Just give him some pocket change and let him hang out in the arcade. You can make up all kinds of stories. My husband, Jack, seemed to distrust not only me but also his own son. The fracture and what my Mill said seemed to be the only things driving him. Regardless, I didn't do it. I haven't spent the day with my Mill, and I find her less credible than she thinks I am. My statement angered Jack so much that he threw a punch at my face. Tim, who had been peeking through a slightly open door, started to approach me. Feeling the situation was dangerous, I screamed without thinking, "Tim, go back to your room." I said it to ensure that my enraged husband wouldn't harm Tim. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I didn't know who it was, but maybe they could help. Standing near the front door, I opened it. To my surprise, it was the police. My Mill had made a scene at the hospital and filed a police report against me, even though Jack tried to stop her. The police had come to update the family. What happened here? I heard loud noises and shouting, said the police officer, noticing my bloody nose. Jack seemed to regain some composure with the arrival of the police, but was clearly still panicked. "Did you hit this woman?" Well, then, we heard a voice from the kids' room. "Dad hit Mom." Tim bravely spoke up. "Dad hit Mom." Feeling anxious about the lack of an adult response, Tim repeated himself, louder this time. The police officer then asked, "Ma'am, is what your child is saying true?" I quietly nodded, and the officer assured Tim and me, who had a partially stopped nosebleed, into the living room. Both Jack and the officer joined us in the living room, where the officer said, "We've investigated your Mill's claims, and we found no evidence supporting them. You're saying my mother lied. She specifically said Michelle pushed her down the stairs." Jack retorted, agitated. The officer continued, "We had security footage of the staircase where your mother supposedly got injured. She actually fell on her own." The video began to play, and Jack's complexion changed rapidly. Incredibly, the footage showed my Mill jumping down the stairs herself. Furthermore, the officer added, "Before jumping, your mother looked around cautiously. Is she hiding something? My own mother lying to me." Considering all this, we will now arrest you, Jack, for assaulting Michelle. We will continue this discussion at the station. Is that all right, Michelle? I was still shocked by Jack's actions, but couldn't let him go. "Please, take him away." With a dejected look, Jack was escorted to the police station. A bit later, Tim and I reluctantly went to the hospital where my Mill was staying. Honestly, I wasn't looking forward to it, but I had to tell her what the police had discovered. Plus, the thought of her continuing to feel superior was irksome. As soon as Tim and I showed our faces in the hospital room, my Mill's first words were, "Why is Michelle here? Weren't you taken by the police?" I couldn't resist saying, "The one who got taken away by the police was your darling Jack." He punched me. Serves him right. What? Jack got arrested. It's your fault. You know. Why should he get arrested? Not you. My mill still seemed to think everyone believed her broken bone story. I had to set her straight. Mrs. Brown, the police hurriedly checked your claims. They found footage of you jumping down the stairs yourself. You even looked around to make sure no one was watching. Tough luck. Laughs. I couldn't help but let out a chuckle at the end. Just imagining my mill's solo drama is enough to make me laugh when confronted with the truth. Instead of blowing up, my mill actually said, "Yay, that's right. I fell all by myself. I thought if I could blame it on Michelle, then both Jack and Tim would side with me. Jack's worthless for going to the police. He should have just believed me." Tim and I were so dumbfounded by this that we decided to leave. Listening to her any further wouldn't do us any good. At that moment, Tim said, "Grandma's just the worst. I never want to be like her." His elementary school wisdom left my mill speechless. Tim and I headed home, feeling pretty good about the whole thing. When we got home, Jack had just returned from the police station. I told my husband, who had come home with a stern warning this time, what I had decided for myself regarding this situation. "Please divorce me." Yes. I had decided to divorce my husband over this. He only believes his mom and not me or even his biological son, Tim. On top of that, he hit me. I don't think it's possible to continue our marriage and family life. I made that decision because the situation wasn't having a good impact on Tim either. And although nothing happened this time, I couldn't shake the feeling that he might eventually be harmed. Panicked, Jack started apologizing. "I'm sorry for not believing you too and for hitting you. I don't want a divorce, but my decision was set. Divorce is the only option. I can't trust you, and I can't handle your mother. I'm starting a new life for Tim's sake. You two can live together in this house. Your mom should be happy with that. My mom will be moved into some facility, or I'll cut ties with her. Then we can live as a family of 3 again, right? So don't leave me. Don't make empty promises you can't keep. I've made up my mind. I can never live with a man who's laid hands on me. Goodbye." With that said, Tim and I packed the bare essentials and left the house. Jack was lost, but we no longer had anything to do with him. Afterward, Tim and I stayed with my parents for a short while and officially proceeded with the divorce. Of course, I got custody. My ex-husband and Mill resisted until the end, but their chances were ruined when it came out that he had been violent. However, he promised to pay child support, so I allowed monthly visits for Tim. We made sure he wouldn't approach us otherwise, for Tim's protection, whether because he'd been seen being arrested for domestic violence, or he felt uncomfortable. He and his mom sold the house and now live in a cramped apartment. On the other hand, I switched to a new job without night shifts. It took a while to adjust to the new environment, but knowing I'm protecting Tim's happiness allows me to work hard. I'm committed to doing my best in work, household chores, and parenting for Tim's sake.